Good day to you. This is Brad Zonkel. I'm director at the Zulon International Bible Institute. And you see, we're ready to work today. Now, whenever we talk about this channel at the Zulon Bible Institute, and we're talking about building a church, it doesn't necessarily have to be construction, hammers and nails and screws and boards. We may talk about that later on, but what we're talking about is putting together the structure to give you a fantastic and strong and vibrant church. And there are some things that many churches may overlook, which would be very important for you to remember. It would be a big hole if you didn't have these things. So what we're going to start off with is we're going to start off in building your church is, what about the little ones? What about the infants? What kind of a nursery would you have? Now, I can tell you many, many scary stories of when I've gone to a church. Like, as a matter of fact, when my child was in a car seat, we visited a church in the Midwest. And when we were visiting some relatives, and I asked them, obviously, where's the nursery? And when they directed me down to the basement of their church, I'm going to tell you the absolute truth. We went in there and they had stacked all of the car seats, the infants, they were still in their car seats or their little cradles, on top of a kitchen table. The nursery was in the kitchen. There was no lip to keep the car seats from falling off. There was no protection for the balls that were being thrown around the room by the toddlers, the terrible twos, and the fantastic 4-year-olds that were running around there. It was absolute mayhem. Well, you can imagine, especially when my wife came down there, Mama Bear said, that's not happening. And so we did not stay there. We kept the child upstairs and we sat near the back. Now, I realized this was a good church, but they just hadn't thought through the need of having a reliable, safe nursery. So let's go through a couple of things in our initial talk, and we'll take a couple of the videos in this channel, and let's talk about what do you need if your Bible group is expanding into a church and you're inviting people in and families, and what should you need to have a good nursery? Well, the first thing is you need to have a secure nursery. It needs to be a dedicated room by itself. And along with that, when you have that, in other words, what I'm saying is having it in the kitchen is not a great idea. If you have to, at least have that where it keeps it away from traffic of people coming through. You want to have a secure place. But I would tell you, you need to have a dedicated room that would be set to have only nursery. In other words, it doesn't mix, and later on you're going to have teens in there, or you're going to have an outing in there, something like that, where food could be dropped and it would be unclean. Keep a dedicated place. The second thing is have security. With every time that your parents meet and they go in there and they're dropping off their child, it's like having a babysitter. Would you want to go in there and there's a 12-year-old girl handling 5 or 10 little children? Of course not. And in the same sense, wouldn't you want to have a guard? And some of the best churches I've been to with good, proper nurseries would always have a gentleman near the door who would be there to make sure everything's going okay. Now, what you'll also need is an identification card. It's something about a little bit smaller than this, but it would be a card that people would receive. And so when they came in, it had their child's name on it, and then they would give that to you, and you would identify this is their property to take the child. And you can understand in some situations in churches and divorce cases, the one parent would find that that's a way. Well, if you're leaving the child in nursery, they go in and call for the child, and the child's gone, and you have all kinds of problems. So an identification card that the person dropping off the child would have. You'll also want to have a clipboard or a whiteboard talking about the restrictions for the particular child. Would it be dangerous if they have a food allergy, if somebody has milk in the area, if you're accidentally serving peanuts, peanut butter cookies, and a child is highly allergic? You may have been in that situation. I know I have in local churches where there are children that are highly, highly sensitive to certain foodstuffs. And very simply, the nursery does not allow those things. And so you want to be careful. Now, the next thing that you'll want to have is soap, antibacterial soap. Have at least 2 dispensers around so the workers can continually clean their hands. A lot of nurseries really forget about that, but you want to have that. And also you'll want to have hand wipes or those along with you. And then you'll want cleaning towels, disposable cleaning cloths. that are around to constantly clean up. Should there be any spill or anything like that, then afterward. Now, it's really not a good idea for you to have stuffed animals. And listen, I know that having a stuffed animal is a wonderful thing and it's cute, but this is also a bacteria carrier. And it's just not a good idea for you to be having stuffed animals in there. And then they might carry a smell with them. It's just a good idea not to have Teddy in there, anybody. And some people may want to donate some. Well, if you get some some brand new stuffed animals in your nursery, it's best for you to tell them that they can give them away as prizes. But it's not a very good idea, especially during flu season. Plastic toys, ones that are easily cleaned. At the very end of every nursery session, it is very important that you would have those clean. Those who volunteer to be in the nursery will know after the last child has left, then it's cleanup time. And I don't mean just putting the toys away. I mean it is wiping down all of the toys and the seats and the counters and disinfecting everything. The disinfectant is very, very important for you to have here. It's also an important thing that you might have aprons for the workers, men and women, that they would have them. For one thing, if a child should be sick, their clothes are protected. But another thing is you want things to be very uniform. And so it would be a good idea, and it doesn't cost that much money, that you would have across the front of your apron the name of the church so people know that is a worker and they can be trusted. And you would also want to be able to have good paperwork, notepads around in case they need to have a note, access to emergency numbers. Putting hooks on the wall high up above both adult and children's eye level so there's no danger on that. Having them out there, and you will have a number of parents that will come in that will have a backpack of specific needs for their children. You take that and you put it on the hook and it's properly identified and you have something very, very practical there. What you're thinking of is safety for the little ones. Safety. So you want to be careful. Now, it wasn't too long ago at one particular church that a child worked her way up on some chairs and on a table and pulled the fire alarm. Now, how those things should be there, that a little one, less than 2, would be able to get up there and pull a fire alarm is a cause for concern. You want to have things and look around and see any potential problem there. Make sure that there is somebody there to watch in the safety. Children are not released after the service is over to go find their parents. It's not a good idea at all. Have the people come in. And I know you know these people for years and years, and you'd trust them just to come. Make it a habit for everybody to show those cards just in case there is a situation that might be beyond your control. As I said, in divorce situations where somebody shoots on in and takes the child, that's happened. You've read about them. You don't want that to happen. So instruct your workers, keep your place clean, use some of these notes, and we'll talk some more about the proper work needed in a nursery. All right? Great. Let's talk some more about building a wonderful, wonderful church.